Hello and welcome back to the Canadian Bowler Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Caldwell, and I'm with my co-host, Daryl Fitzgerald. Daryl, how's it going today?
It's going pretty good. How are you doing, Luke?
Oh, not so bad, not so bad. Hanging in there, being kind of bored. Same old, same old.
I mean, that's kind of where we are right now, but hopefully things get better. Have you
I'm
have you been doing any bowling?
No, haven't rolled a bowl this year. Not gonna lie. It's been I was talking to the guys before the show, and I was saying I've been so invested in the sport since I was 8 years old that it's almost been a good break for me. So that's probably part of the reason why I haven't. But soon enough, hopefully. I'm also not like a massive fan of practicing, so I like kind of just playing games and tournaments and stuff. So just going out there to practice for nothing is kind of hard to self motivate myself, I guess.
That's fair. I mean, I've tried to go out and bowl a little bit. It was fun, but there was no real focus on what should I be doing like it would be any other year.
Right on, yeah. Before we get started here, guys, I wanted to say two things today. First off is just thank Daryl for letting everybody know that he's a big deal today. I thought everybody should know that. And obviously, some regular housekeeping. Thanks again to everybody who tunes in every other week and tunes into the After Dark once a month when that happens. Always remember to follow that way. Follow, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see when we go live every time on YouTube. Follow the Facebook page so you can get all the notifications from there. And most of our stuff is posted to Facebook with updates. Daryl does a great job running that page. So thanks to Daryl. I guess moving into the show, we have, in my opinion, a special guest today. Somebody that I've been pretty close friends with ever since they stepped into the sport. He told me not to gas him up too much, but he's a world indoor triples champion, a Canadian national junior champion, an Ontario junior champion, and he's spent some time bowling in Australia. And that today is Erik Galipeau.
Hi guys.
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Nice to see you, Eric. How's the whole summer been for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. Coming home from Australia, really excited to get into the season here, but obviously we know how that went. So just been working a lot and trying to get as many bowls down as possible.
Perfect. Well, before we get too far into this, I like to ask everybody the same question, just for people out there who might not know who you are. Who is Erik Galipeau, and who are you today?
Yeah, so I'm a 19-year-old kid. I live in Toronto, Ontario. I've been bowling for about 6 years. I am on the development team for the national team. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect.
And I mean, for 6 years, you've done quite a few things in just a few short years.
Yeah.
It is wild. So I remember the first time I ever met Erik was at the national juniors in Etobicoke, and he was just this little kid. And I remember, I think someone said like, "Well, Erik, it's at your club. You might as well play." And he was okay for a guy who just started that year, or even a couple weeks before. He wasn't a bad player at all. And then it was just crazy. The next year he shows up, and he'd been working on the greens a lot with coaches and whatnot. And he was a completely different athlete, and it's just crazy how quickly the progression's gone for him.
Yeah, I've been super lucky. I've got to work with some incredible coaches, Daryl being one of them. So yeah, I've obviously just got a very huge advantage of meeting some really important and very well knowledged bowlers super early in my bowls career, and just tried to take in every single thing I could, and now I'm here.
You did speak a little bit about the time you spent in Australia. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I moved down to Australia about 10 months ago. A town about 25 minutes north of Perth called Clarkson. And I met these two guys, Kyle McElroy and Dave Rankin, in England at Potters last year, playing with my dad. And Kyle was generous enough to offer me a spot playing for the Double View Pennant team, which is the club I played for down there. So yeah, there's Kyle in the chat right there.
He is.
Yeah, so I lived with him, and we played a season pennant together with the other 16 guys on the team, and it was an incredible experience. I would do it again in a second for sure.
What were the biggest differences you noticed? Let's just step away from the sport of bowls for just 1 second. What were some of the biggest lifestyle differences you noticed living in like Australia as opposed to living in Toronto?
Well, I found that like I was bowling every day. Like I was to the green every day. So I worked in the bar at the club. I find that the biggest difference, I know you said stay away from bowls, but it would be in bowls, is just how much of a like location the bowls club is. Like you get people who have never heard of bowls in the world just showing up and having a drink or two and just having a good time at the bowls club, which is definitely something you don't get here.
Speaking along those lines as well, what was the biggest shock to you as far as the club that you worked at versus some of the bigger clubs here in Canada?
So the club I worked at was a fairly big club. It had a restaurant that was open 2 or 3 days a week, and then the bar, which was open pretty much as long as there was people in the club. So it was pretty big. We're getting like 30, 40, 50 people there in a night, just hanging out, not even playing. Whereas here, you don't get that. If you're at the club, you're there to bowl, right?
Very true.
Sure. What was your favorite club that you visited while you were in Australia?
Oh, that's tough. It would either have to be the club I played for, Doubleview. It was a really, really awesome location. Or I went down to the Dudley Park Lawn Bowls Club when I played in the Everest, which was also a really cool experience just because of everything that's happened at that club before.
Right on.
So you mentioned the Everest. Tell us a little bit about that. I know what it is, but let everybody else know what the Everest is.
So I actually believe it's the highest paying event in the world right now. It's $100K first prize. I was lucky enough to get sponsored to go into it. So somebody paid my entry fee, which was $1,000. And I got to play in my pool. I didn't get out of that, but in my pool was Aaron Wilson and one other guy from WA, Daniel Brown, and then a guy who funds a lot of the really good bowlers to come down, Damien McGee. So it was really, really cool experience playing all of them. I got absolutely slaughtered by Aaron. That was my first singles game in Australia, against Aaron Wilson, and I ended up going up like 5-3, and I was on top of the world. And it all just went downhill so fast.
You mentioned Aaron Wilson there. I've also had the opportunity to play against Aaron, and I've said on this show before, I think he's probably the best player I've ever played against. Would you say Aaron Wilson was up there for one of the best players you've ever played against as well, or do you think there's somebody that you played that was on a higher level?
I also got to play Bester while I was down there in the Pro-Am before the Everest, which was really cool. He's one of my heroes. So I would probably say Bester is the best bowler I've ever played. But me and Kyle beat Bester in the Pro-Am, which was awesome. So I would say Bester is the best player I've ever played against.
Nice. I want to cycle back to your coaching comments. So you've been coached by a lot of different people. You've had the advantage of meeting some really, really experienced, well-known, and I guess great coaching players. I wanted to ask you about one of them in particular, and someone that you've worked with a lot here, John Bazier. What has John Bazier meant to you as far as your bowling career?
John has been the biggest influence on my bowls career by miles. He's also really been for me there on a personal level, not just as a bowls coach. I'm not sure you guys were at my going away party there.
Yeah.
Obviously, he means a great deal to me, and I mean a great deal to him. His knowledge of the game is incredible. I don't think I've ever met somebody who knows the game as well and knows how to teach the game as well as John.
I'd have to agree. John Bazier is one of our senior national players. He teamed up with Ryan Bester, in the multi-nations just recently to win the gold in the pairs, and John hadn't really bowled consistently probably the last 5 years
Yeah,
ish.
I started getting coaching from him probably 3 or 4 years ago, and that was like him coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daryl.
I was also going to ask you about growing up in bowls, and when did you first get the itch to start bowls, and what has kept you going in it since?
Yeah, so I think when I started bowls, it was just solely to play in the nationals, like Luke said there. It was at my home club. That's actually why I started playing. I like read an article about the nationals at Etobicoke there, so decided to join and play in it. Why not? Um, After that year, I obviously got introduced to a lot of the really young bowlers in bowls already, which was a super big advantage, guys like Luke. And the next year is when I got really involved in the junior circuit for tournaments. So the events in Coburg and Oshawa, Peterborough, Lindsay. And I think that's honestly what kept me in the game. I got to really bond with people my own age, and I'll have lifelong friends like Luke, for because of the sport. And I think that's really what kept me in at the start,
Yeah.
when I was young. Now I love the game so much, so it's I'll yeah.
Yeah, I just
Quick
wanted to
question.
I just wanted to touch
go
on
ahead.
that quick. So what Kyle, sorry, I was going to say Kyle. Kyle's the one that's commenting, but what Erik said is really important for anybody listening, and any clubs that are listening to this podcast. Time and time again, everybody says it's so hard to get juniors and so hard to keep juniors
Yeah.
and to get young people. When you get groups and when you get people that are the same age, the same generation, bonding with each other, talking with each other, that's the big bonus to keeping people around. If it's just
Yeah.
one or two, they may not stay.
Yeah, you got to get the friendships
It
going.
really is the truth, though, because like I remember I went through a phase just around the end of high school where I was like, maybe I'll play a couple more years, maybe not. And whenever I won the under 25s in Vancouver, I literally said to everyone when I got there, I was like, this is my last year. I'm never playing again.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just coach. And then I won, and I was like, God, I don't think I can quit yet.
Kyle actually just commented something funny there. It says, "Ask why we call him Pineapple." After my first day in Australia, I wasn't called Erik. Like that was the first and last day I was called Erik. It was just Piney after that.
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing I know how to say in French. So they expected me to come down knowing French, and I said, yeah, only thing I know how to say is "Je suis un ananas," which means I'm a pineapple.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been Piney. And I actually have it, I don't know if you can see, tattoo on my arm there.
Oh, that's cool.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, Erik, let's have a little bit of fun now. If you could build a Canadian dream team to play alongside you, so you and 3 other people, who would be on your team, and where would they play?
Oh man, what are you doing to me here? I would probably say, I'd want to play two. Two's my favorite position in fours.
Nice.
I would probably put my dad as lead. I've grown through the game playing with my dad. I love playing with my dad. It's something we do weekly. Then I'd probably have John at 3, just because of his knowledge of the game. He'd be incredible to be calling heads.
Yeah.
And then what's the restriction on skips here? Like, can I pick Bester?
You can pick Bester. He's still Canadian.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll take Bester as my skip just because he's Bester.
It is really a shame, Daryl. He fell right into the old saying you had to had your worst player at second. So
That's true. Yeah, everybody listening out there, second is important, man. And it's a good spot.
I think second is one of the most valuable spots on a force team for sure.
Yeah, we touched on this, Eric, on the last or one of our last podcasts, and I said I think every player is just as important
Oh,
as the
for
next
sure.
guy. So I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to play second. Like my personal favorite spot's third, just because I'm a big fan of trying to turn heads over and convert
Yeah.
heads and being a little bit more aggressive. So that's just me, but different for everybody, I suppose.
Very true. So I want to give a shout out to Kyle. He just subscribed to the channel. Thanks, Kyle, for
Hey.
the subscription. It means a lot. And I also want to ask you a question about what Perth Penance has said. And I'm not sure who Perth Penance is, but it says you sleep a lot, Eric. And then
Yeah.
he also says, I can't believe you're awake. Rob would be so proud. So what is that all about?
So the guy Perth Pennant is Dave Rankin. He's the other guy that was at Potters with Kyle.
Okay.
So he played for a different club in Australia called the Cardinia Cats, which is all good. It's an artificial club, really pretty. He said I sleep a lot. I'm not sure if he's just because the time change right now. He's probably up at a weird time, so I'm not sure if that's what it is. He's just not getting the time change.
Maybe,
So I'm not
yeah.
actually sure, but I do spend a lot of time sleeping. So
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with sleeping. You gotta get
Yeah.
your 8 to 12 every night.
gotta get it. Gotta get it.
And I think Cam is wondering what happened to your hair. I don't think he
Yeah,
knows the secret behind your hair.
I got a man bun now. So yeah, I find my hair is a lot easier to just put up than worry about. So yeah, I just throw it up every day now. Sorry if Cam doesn't
When
like.
do you think you're gonna get it cut?
Oh, I don't know. If it was up to my mom right now,
Right.
but I think I'm gonna leave it for a little bit.
Fair enough.
So, well, Perth Penance is back at it. So you're playing second because you can't throw a jack?
Yeah, so I actually led in Australia for most of my time down there,
Mhm.
and yeah, my jack throwing on the 18-second green is not good.
It's a skill to be learned, right? It's really
It is,
important too.
yeah. 18-second greens and you're throwing a jack. You do not have to throw that thing hard.
No, you don't.
It's a bit easier in Canada where you can just lob it down there and it's going to stop wherever it hits the grass. So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your family connection. So your dad's heavily involved in what you do. He's been involved in Port Credit as well, which is your club here. Unfortunately, this year kind of fizzled out, and we haven't been able to do competitive bowls. But I know he was the driving force behind. Is it the Phoenix Championship?
Yeah, Phoenix Championship of Bowls. So that's actually my dad and my mom. My mom's doing a ton of work for it as well.
Nice.
They're both really, really putting in some hard work for that. It was really disappointing when we had to cancel that this year. We are going to be running it next year. The Phoenix is going to be kind of a flip on the scoring system in bowls. If anyone here is familiar with UBC in the chat, that's the scoring format that they're gonna run, and it's gonna be lots of games, lots of turnover, quick games, and it should be really, really exciting bowls.
Now, is this teams that are going to be made up and run right through the season, or how does the format actually work?
No, so it's just gonna be one. There's gonna be multiple events. There's gonna be I believe 3. The first 2 are just gonna be trials, kind of. If you win them, you get your entry into the main one funded, which would be cool. And then the last one, which is going to be near the end of the year, there's going to be a lot more teams, really quick turnover on games. It's going to be like playing 8 games a day or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's going to be quick, fast, and it's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully.
and how many people per team is that?
2.
Are we still playing next year?
Yeah, I'm down. You might have to throw a couple more bowls, though.
I got plenty of time to practice.
Yeah.
Hey Luke, come on, stop using the show to pick up teammates, all right?
Sorry, had to replace Daryl.
Yeah.
So with the Phoenix Bulls championship that's going on, I know we wanted to get your dad on the show when
Yeah.
everything kind of fell apart. We figured we'd wait until something came up. I'm glad you were able to plug it, and I'm glad that you're on here. What has your dad meant to you as far as your Bulls career?
A ton. Obviously, he has always been there for me. It took like 3 years for him to miss a game. Um, yeah, he's always been there. He's been there to celebrate with me. He's been there to cry with me. He's been a huge part, and there's no chance I would be anywhere near where I am right now without my dad. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I know you talked the other day about family in bowls. You had a post on Instagram about it, yeah, and that definitely, I think a lot of younger bowlers can relate to how much their dad or grandfather, or whatever it was, meant to them in bowls.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the show previously, and like you said, I'm sure you can relate, Eric. It's just awesome how it's one of those sports how I can go out there and play with my dad until the day he stops throwing bowls. Like I never got to play hockey or baseball or soccer or anything along those lines with my dad or my uncles or anybody like that. When bowls is almost a special sport because you can play with your dad up until he can't play anymore.
Mhm.
Or you can't play anymore or something happens. So I've always really liked that aspect about bowls, and it always brings me back. It always brings me back just so it's something I know I get to see my dad every year and get to go out there and hang out with him.
Yeah, it's actually one of my best memories in bowls. Period. Is when me and my dad actually played Luke and his dad in the PBA qualifiers there in pairs.
In the semifinal. That was a good
The
game.
semifinals. It was a really, really good game. And yeah, it was a really awesome a game. Fortunately, me and my dad came out on top. But yeah, it was definitely a good game.
It was the bad green.
So, Eric, what's been your probably best achievement, or not necessarily achievement, but just your best moment in bowls? And on the flip side, what's been one of the tougher moments?
So tougher is probably easier for me. It would either be losing the U25 semifinals last year at Wanda Fuca. I was up 18-11, I think, in the semifinals, and ended up losing that one. I think you were actually streaming that game, Daryl.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh no, yeah,
No?
yeah, you were. I think it was you and Terry.
It might have
But
been, yeah.
yeah, so that was atrocious. That was my worst by far. My best would either be winning the U25 mixed triples worlds in Glasgow, or me and Kyle actually played an event in Australia called the W Master Pairs, and it's a massive event down there. Ended up coming equal thirds, and like the payout on it was like $500 or something each for equal third, which is nothing like we get here.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever won $500 in a tournament here.
Yeah, I think it was $450 each for equal third, which is nuts.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How about we move over to a little bit of fun here? I'm going to bring up a series of pictures, and I just want to get your take on what it is, either where it is, what it meant to you, the people in it, whatever it is, just some commentary on it. So we've got a picture up of it's the Canadian Youth Championships. It's a whole bunch of youth bowlers. This was a great event in Nova Scotia. What did this mean to you?
Yeah, so this is in Halifax, at the Dartmouth Lawn Bowling Club.
That's right.
And so this was an event where I was really, really happy with how I played in the round robin. I ended up having to play a tiebreaker to get into the playoffs against Carter Watson. And that would probably be my first really big game I ever kind of played. I ended up losing, which is unfortunate, but yeah, it was a really good event. Really awesome to see all these people, obviously. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Halifax.
I think this was from the same event, but what is this?
Yeah. So that's Emily. That was my Foster Lang partner. We ended up getting silver, which was really, really fun. Really enjoyed it.
And how long had she been playing?
Oh, I think this was her like third or fourth month.
I think you're bang on there. That was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely played some really, really good shots and kept her composure well. We ended up losing in the finals to Jordan and Mason, I think.
All right. Oop, we'll go this way.
Oh, so well, there's obviously a guy you know in the middle there.
Yeah, he's pretty good looking too, eh?
Yeah, so that was well,
You're
one of
talking about Mike, right?
oh, definitely, yeah. Um, that was what was the first tournament at Heritage last year?
I think it was
2 years ago?
2017. Yeah.
2017?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was what Jurgen just couldn't make it, and I filled in for him at the event. I think we ended up winning that too, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. You guys are obviously a hoot to play with, and really good bowlers. So yeah, I'll play with you three any day.
And what about this?
Oh, was that Nationals? Yeah, so that's the Nationals I won in Winnipeg there. That was a really crazy event for me. I played a really, really good round robin. Played out of my pants the whole event, and then that was a really, really big win for me. Really important to me, and yeah, it was definitely an experience.
And this is more recent.
This is, I believe, playing. That's at the Everest. I think that's gonna be either Ryan Bester or Kevin Anderson behind me,
Okay.
or Damien McGee, one of the three. So yeah, those are the bowls I used in Australia. Optimas, really enjoyed them, and yeah, that wasn't too long ago. So that would have been at the Everest.
And finally, this one.
Yeah, so that was after me and Kyle's pro am game. So Kyle's the one on the front left.
Yep.
We ended up playing Bester and Sandy. That's the girl. That was right after the game we played against them,
Okay.
and ended up winning. So how the pro am at the Everest works is you buy like tickets, and your name kind of like goes into a hat, and then they pick out like 14 tickets, and that's the person who plays with like Bester or Aaron Wilson or all those big guys, right?
Right.
So me and Kyle we just entered. We didn't do that, but Sandy won Bester in that, and we ended up playing them, which was awesome,
All right.
and we ended up winning.
Nice.
Perfect.
So Eric, what's next for you in the sport bowls?
So I was hoping to get away again this winter, just so I could kind of train a lot more. I know I actually talked to you about it. I was thinking about going down to Arizona for a while, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening, because just with COVID and all that. So this winter will just be working, training as much as I can, and getting ready for next season, where hopefully I can come out and have a strong year.
One last question from me, anyway. We can see it in your background. I know it's on your
Yeah.
arm. I know it's on your bowls as well.
Yeah.
What is that symbol, and why is it everywhere?
So that is a Aztec fish. A lot of people say it looks like a turtle or a bird,
Yeah.
but it's actually an Aztec fish. It is tattooed on my arm right there, on my hand, on my right arm. So my sister, my middle sister Kira, actually designed my first set of bowls. So they're the tri-colored Aero Maxims that turn like 34 feet.
Right.
And she just really, really liked that logo, and it looked really good with the colors and all that stuff. So I just stuck with it, and then every set of bowls I have has that logo on them, and it's on my arm, it's on my wall in my bedroom. So yeah, it's just it signifies bowls for me, and bowls is obviously a massive part of my life.
Right.
So that's mainly why it's there.
Awesome.
Nice. So Eric, before I let you go, there's just something I like to do every show, and I'm just gonna kind of speed run through a couple questions here, and just kind of give me the first thing that comes to your mind for each question. Okay.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay. I'll start it off with a softball here. Do you like Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Okay. if you had to pick one, male and or female, whatever you want, who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, okay. Like Emma Watson, but at the end of Harry Potter.
Okay, okay.
Big Harry
Um,
Potter guy.
what's your favorite fast food?
Taco Bell.
Tea or
Ooh.
coffee?
Coffee, no question.
Oh, let's see if I can pick another good one here quick. TV shows or movies?
TV shows and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Good
Nice.
show. Do I got any more there? What's another banger we could give them to get off here?
I just
do
wanted
you like? Go ahead, Daryl.
I just wanted to know about the Taco Bell. Did you talk to Ryan Bester? Because that's one of his favorites too.
We did, yeah. We did chat about it. He said it's not as good in Australia as it is back here, which
Yeah.
is very believable because can't really touch Taco Bell back here.
All right, last one here, Eric. Straight bowls or wide bowls?
See, I use Aero Grooves. I love them. The arrow bias turns a bit earlier than most bowls do. It's kind of like a halfway turn point than a kind of like a hockey stick. People say it's more like a banana than a hockey stick.
Yeah.
So my favorite bowl is the arrow groove. If whatever you classify that as, then there you go.
And we got one. I guess we got one more from you from the chat. Kyle wants to know: do you put pineapple on pizza or no?
He knows the answer to that. Pineapple on pizza is the worst thing ever created.
Fair enough. Different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Right.
Alrighty, Eric. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today. We really do
thank you guys for
appreciate it.
having.
Is there anything you want to shout out before we let you go?
No, I just want to thank you two. Obviously, this podcast has done some incredible things, bringing some awareness to the game where it wasn't before. So I really, really do appreciate it, and can't wait to see everybody out on the green.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Eric. Stay in touch. All right, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Eric.
See you, pal.
Bye.
Wow, great interview, man. Great.
Yeah, that was great. It was really nice talking to Eric. Like I said before, he's been a good friend of mine ever since he came into the sport. On the bowl screen and just on a personal level, he's always been someone who, if he's got something going on and he needs a friend or vice versa, we always talk to each other. So it was nice to have him on the show and have a good conversation with him.
Yeah. I guess next time that he's on, I would love to get a little more insight onto how he thinks going to Australia benefited him, and if it's worthwhile for others to think about maybe taking a little time and going over there and living for a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question that we probably should ask them, because like even myself, I've thought about it over the years, and it was just never monetarily possible or reasonable with the life I had going on. But it's always been something that people talk about, and I think it would be awesome. Like again, we've spent time over there, we know what it's like, and it would just be cool just to live that lifestyle for a little while.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
What do you think? Do you think it's beneficial for people to go over?
I do, actually. If you have the means, which is always the tough part, so you have the time and the means to actually go over, it's definitely worthwhile. Ryan Bester will tell you, if you ask him, and a lot of people do ask him, you went over to Australia, you're such a good player, what was it like coming over? And he'll say it took 2 to 3 years for him to actually get good over there. He hopped over there and he had won the world pairs, but when he started rolling on them, he wasn't that good. And it took a while to learn and to adapt and understand the game in a different style, at a different speed. And it's always good to just open that horizon, or open the eyes to that new experience for new bowlers.
Yeah, I just want to take this moment to open up the floor to the chat here, guys. Bowls has been stale. Sports have been stale. What do you guys in the chat want to talk about? Do you have any questions for us? Talking points that we can kind of bring up? Something that would make you guys more interested in the show? It's just tough. Like the whole point of this Canadian Bowler Show was to celebrate champions and get insight on what's going on and talk about tournaments. And it's been really hard. So if there's anything you guys want to hear, just make sure you plop it in the chat there, and we'll do our best to go over it.
Yeah, Ruff Ellis in the chat says, if Bowls Canada had the money, which is always the issue, a full-time placement of players for development in Australia and New Zealand would do wonders, and I can't agree more. If we had the money to say, hey, we're going to take you 5 and we'll put you down in Australia for 6 months, play a pennant season, play in some big tournaments, go and train on those greens, and then come back, they would be different bowlers.
Do you think? Here's a question. I guess it would probably still be the answer is probably yes. Suppose all of the big championships were in Canada, the United States, and like more things in the northern hemisphere as opposed to the south. Do you think going down and spending time in Australia would be as helpful, or do you think it would be more detrimental than helpful playing on such a different surface?
That's a good question. I would still say yes, it would be beneficial, and simply from the fact that you can bowl pretty much year round if you really wanted to. Up here, unless you have an indoor where you can play on the synthetic, you're out of luck. Unless you have something in your house or you kind of make something and kind of piece it together to practice. It would be beneficial, and you're playing against some top-notch people. You're playing against other top world players because the money's down there, right? So you follow the money, you follow where you can actually go and play bowls pretty much professionally for most of the top bowlers anyway.
Right. Well, what do you think, Daryl? Suppose you're in a different position. You're Steve Glaston today. You're the coach of the Australian national team, and the World Championships are being held in Canada. You have players who are so used to playing on 16, 17, 18, so on, second greens. What do you think you would do to have your players be ready for playing on a slower green?
I think Ralph made a good point, and that's probably where I'd go. Is I would find another country, even if it is Canada, to send my players for a short amount of time, and if I had the money and the means to do so, let them play in the UK for a while. The UK has, I'll say very wet weather, fog, overcast, rains quite a bit, and the greens are comparable to Canada. If I could get them to Canada, I would go and play on some of the surfaces there and get an idea of what it's like, which is very different. And I don't know if they may have some places in Australia, but you try to find what works best. For us in Canada, we often will take a trip out to PIBC, the indoor, where we know we can at least get to the 15-second mark on an average, and that's where we'll train and give people a little bit of time on faster surfaces before we actually go over. So it's either send people to where they can get better, or really find that place in your country that that can at least synthesize that experience.
I was going to say, I know it's a little bit different for us going there because it's pretty hard to speed greens up that much. Do you think it would be possible to dump so much water on the green that they could mimic a green in Canada with the speed anyways?
I think.
Or do you think it would completely change the green and just wouldn't work?
That's probably the beware kind of thing. Is would it actually make things worse for what you're doing? But I believe that some of the countries, I don't know if it was Australia or something that had faster greens, tried that and just soaked the surface, didn't take care of it as much as they would for speeding it up. But Kyle's just saying that there's plenty of places in Australia you could certainly modify the greens to that condition. So if you can do that, you want to do that because you just want to give that experience of, okay, it's not quite 15. What is 12? What is 11? In your mind, you can say, okay, it's slower, but are you thinking way too slow? Are you not thinking slow enough? You just got to get that experience.
Yeah, fair enough. Ralph says Ontario always used to have four greens consistently running and being played at 15 seconds. Now money isn't the issue. That's fair. I mean, even still, I don't know specific numbers and maybe not quite 15 seconds, but there's some decent greens out there speed wise. But I always found with a lot of clubs in the country, or I'm just going to use an example. When I played in Winnipeg, everyone talked about the club we were playing at how slow the greens were going to be. And I was super ready for them to be slow. And I guess what they did going up to the championships is kind of the thought that everybody has, where it's like, oh, well, if I don't water my greens and cut them really short, it'll speed up the greens and it'll make them better. In this specific scenario, and I feel like it's kind of similar to what happens all the way across our country, is like I've said this before, people think speed's everything. And this green was so hard to play on because it had wonky runs and it got so much faster. And the runs just don't go away just because it got faster. So like I've always been a big advocate of like people need to like figure out how to make their greens more true before they worry about speed.
Yeah, and
in my personal opinion, anyways.
And you're absolutely right. The issue with people trying to get up to 13, 14, 15 seconds in Canada is the fact that the greens aren't true.
Yeah.
You know, they let them go, and then they think, okay, I'll shut off the water for a couple weeks. I'll mow the crap out of it. I'll verticut and get the thatch out of there. And you're just making like, I almost picture underneath is like some of those desert pictures with all the cracked ground, because your bowl goes out there and all of a sudden it shoots out, shoots in, shoots out, and then how do you play with it?
Speaking of the crack that you're imagining there, did you ever see any pictures from when myself and my team played at a club called Dinas Powys in Wales?
No.
So we went there the first day for training. We played against Australia, oddly enough, and the greens looked okay. They were green. They weren't super fast, but they were okay. And when we happened to be in Wales, what we were told from the locals is this is the first time in 40 years that we've gone through this long without rain. And a lot of the smaller clubs didn't have any sort of watering systems like we would see here because it rained so much, so they didn't have to have them. And so they would have to hand water the grass. And I guess I don't know if they were doing it or not, but I'm not kidding you. Speaking of the cracks in the green, it almost looked like there was like the big grid marks cracked in the green. Like it was like rock solid, cracked brown dirt. It was super weird, and it was completely different from anything I'd ever seen before. And all I took with me was my Taylor Internationals because I was expecting, like, I don't know, something like here, like between 9 and 13 seconds, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was some games where I couldn't take enough grass to stay on the rink. Because like they were so hilly and weird.
Yeah.
So like I remember we we didn't speak about it, but I was playing against Gary Kelly and his partner from Ireland, and I was playing with Owen Kirby, and I was playing on an end rink, and I ended up aiming like halfway down the backboards, and I'm 6 feet inside. Like I couldn't play it; it was impossible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird.
But that's the issue, right? We in Canada, we don't have the money to level our greens properly, and the cheapest way to quote unquote make them better is to speed them up, and for the people that want it sped up, they're just not true, so they don't work as well, right?
Yeah, and like obviously quick greens are fun and dandy, but I'd almost rather play on like a mediocre like 10 to 12 that runs okay rather than a 15 16 that's crazy.
No, 100%, I agree with you there. So going along some annoyances and we're getting this off our chest. Luke, I wanted to know what's your biggest irritation in bowls when you play? What gets you all fired up? Yeah.
Oh. How do you mean that? Do you mean like things that happen during a game, or like things about the sport that make me cranky?
It could be anything. Whatever gets your blood boiling a little bit.
My biggest pet peeve let's go with this one. My biggest pet peeve when I play with people, and I know my dad, if you're listening, I love you to death, but this used to drive me nuts. We'd play together, and I say if I'm having a bad game, I'd throw a couple short bowls, and he'd be like, "Hey, you have to make sure you get it here. You have to throw it here." I'm like, "I know I have to throw it. Do you think I'm trying to be short?" It's like, it's not helpful. Just be quiet. And it's like to the point where you almost want to scream at him down the green.
You know what? I'm right with you there. It's not necessarily just that. That's really annoying. It's all almost the cliche responses, right?
Yeah.
And you know exactly what they're thinking. It's like, hey, great back bowl, or good thinking, or whatever. And they're basically telling you, okay, stop playing like shit. Let's. And it's not like you're trying to, right?
No, it's kind of funny you bring that up. Again, I hate going back to things we talked about. But when we were in Wales, my force team was Mike Patulli, Grant Wilkie, and Owen Kirby. And we had a little sit down before, and we said, like, if you throw a bad shot, we're just either not going to say anything or we're going to make a joke. We're not going to do any of the, like, good try or whatever. We pretty much just said, like, hey, man, you made a terrible shot. And I was like, hey, like, okay, that's fine. You made a terrible shot too. And it was just like, it almost made it easier just so we could joke and laugh about it and kind of loosen it up rather than the, oh, great try, Daryl. You'll get it on the next one. And you know that I'm like, oh, Daryl, you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my irritations, it's not, I won't necessarily say it's like my number one, but talking about that is when people don't understand the game and they talk as if they do. It's frustrating, especially when you try to have a conversation with them. I find it really, really irritating that someone makes a wick shot, which is a wick shot, very circumstantial, very lucky, low percentage, and they happen to make the perfect result, and everybody thinks, what a great shot, and nobody actually realizes how lucky it was. I find that really irritating, but
I mean, it's irritating, but at the same time, it is kind of a good shot. It's part of the game.
it is. It happens, and it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. It used to really get me all fired up when someone to get a wick shot, fire off of something 6 feet wide, shoot across, hit the shot bowl, and actually sit on the jack. And then my game would just go to crap. But nowadays, it's not so bad.
I can understand, and I've definitely been there where it's been equally as frustrating. But if I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, I'm not gonna celebrate any less if I'm playing a game of hockey and I shoot one from the point and it hits off your ass on the hash marks and it goes in the net. I'm gonna celebrate just as much as if I shot it right in the top corner, right? So
Very true. Very true. And I can't blame if you get it. There you go.
Yeah, it's one of the. I know what you mean. It's one of those things where they're celebrating it like it's like they tried to do this crazy shot and it worked out. I get
it. Yeah, that's okay. We're actually thinking of doing some videos on this kind of stuff. If you guys have stuff that either irritates you about bowls, irritates you about the people that play bowls, things that whether it's funny or not, put it in the comments, send us an email, tweet us, whatever it is. Let us know about it, because we're making a list of all these interesting videos that we can do to either explain something or just poke some fun at ourselves as bowlers. And we'd love to get your feedback on what you'd like to see.
I know Ralph Alice here in the chat, he said the worst thing is the draw masters fiddling with the draw for personal gain. I think it wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing if the draw masters couldn't play, because that would be eliminated, right? For the most part. I mean, for themselves, I guess it would go away, but you could still. We have always done it this way.
Yeah, that's number one. Yeah. I have to agree with Ralph. I've only seen it once, where something happened where the draw master was playing and they snuck in and someone else got booted out and it didn't seem on the level. But right. I agree with you. If I'm actually being a draw master, I won't play. I concentrate on doing that, helping the players. Sometimes you have to explain stuff, so I don't want to be focusing on playing and doing it at the same time, so I usually just do one or the other.
Right. Speaking of pet peeves, now that we're just on this topic, my whole life in bowls or career, whatever you want to call it, people have always been so upset when they get placed on an end green. And the biggest example I can think of, I'm not going to name any names or anything, but it was at a tournament somewhere, and there was a final, and they put the final game, the top two teams that were undefeated, on an end rink. And the person who lost was super mad, said they'd never come back to the club because they got shafted and got put on an end rink. But my immediate response is, well, the other person had to play on the end rink too. So, what's so bad about an end rink?
The only thing I can think of is, at least in Canada, and I can't speak about other places, but, when you get to the edges, sometimes it's raised a little bit, or they didn't mow the edges enough, or whatever it is. Sometimes the end rinks tend to be a little more wonky because they kind of neglect the edges. But some of the better greens at some places are the end rinks. And I would rather let's play on a good rink rather than complain about one or the other. I mean, if you get placed on the worst rink and they know it's the worst rink, then you have something to complain about. But end rinks, and it just seems to stick in people's head. Hey, I'm on an end rink, it must be really bad.
Yeah, just kind of what I was saying there, though. It's like the same part. This other team had to play on the crappy green too. So yeah. just play a better game, and you're still gonna win. Doesn't really matter, right?
Like we've said before, we as bowlers love to complain, right?
Yeah, we're definitely a society of complainers, especially here in Canada, myself included.
So I like Kyle's comment, people not buying a beer in turn. You don't have that here at Canada much because not every club has a bar. But I do see it in Australia when I've played there and played in just a fun match where, whose shout is it? And everybody buys a beer in turn, so everybody's even. But yeah, if you get the one person who doesn't actually buy a turn,
I guess like here in Canada, we never really have that problem because the time you're at a club that has a bar, everyone's always so friendly and generous that everybody buys everybody drinks, and you don't like you almost like it's almost you just don't have to worry about it.
yeah, it's almost like, oh my goodness, this place has a bar. Okay, now's my time to spend my drink money, right?
Well, I remember the night before WOBA last year after the Bill Becker, we're all sitting inside having beers and just talking, and it was almost like everyone wanted to buy everybody a beer. I couldn't drink them fast enough before someone was buying me another one.
No, I know, and in other places you don't see that as much. You know, some people need that crowbar to get their wallet open.
Yeah, for sure.
One other thing I wanted to ask was when you're actually playing in a tournament and something goes wrong, it's I don't know how I can word this correctly without sounding like a little bit of a dick.
We'll just be a dick. Who cares?
All right. So if something happens and you get shafted out of something for whatever reason, there's a miscount, your scorecard gets read incorrectly, and you go up and raise the issue, hopefully nicely, just saying, hey, like, you know, I noticed there's an incorrect tally or whatever, and they won't do anything about it. And it doesn't have to be that either. It could be something else where they just refuse to actually accommodate you. I find that really just irritates the crap out of me, where, you know, take a few minutes, go back and redo it, and let's get everything on the level. Right?
I've never experienced anything like that. I've definitely had miscounts, but every time I've ever experienced it, they always did a recount and everybody was happy. So I've never seen it go south.
I've had it a few times, which is really, really odd, because typically, and it's not just me, but when I've seen others have issues, you know, they talk and everything gets sorted out. But just those few people where the draw master just says, no, I'm right, and I've done everything correctly, basically get out of here. But maybe it's just me.
I mean, again, I don't know who you're speaking about, but it almost just sounds like that person's almost has an ego and they're being a little close-minded on the situation. But I don't know the situation. I've never had to deal with that, so I don't really have an answer.
We have no egos in bowls, do we?
No, I'm the best player there ever was, but no, there's no egos in bowl. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, what do you think, Luke?
What do you think, Daryl?
Oh, wait, we've got a couple. So Ralph says, had one 3-game winner not given a prize. We sorted out the issue. That seems fair.
That's definitely the way to handle it. Just figure it out.
And Cameron says, skips that leave the head, walk to the other end, and then ask their teammate who shot.
That's a good one that I never would have thought of.
And it happens all the time, believe it or not. I've seen it. They walk down and they, not necessarily who shot, but who's in the back. Do we have one in the back? Or some other question where you just left the head. How can you be asking that question?
Do you want to know another one that really gets me going? Speaking about this, I'm just gonna have to get up and show you this one, okay?
All right.
So we've played the end. The Bulls are on the green. Who do you think shot, Daryl?
I know what you mean.
And they just never measure. It's like, just measure the head. It's okay.
They do the
that one.
It's like circling the wagons. Like they both take turns going around and around and around, and then eventually it's like you're sitting at the end, like you've got a measure in your pocket. Get the measure out.
That one drives me nuts, especially when you're playing with a time limit.
Oh, that's a perfect one, 100%.
Yeah, I had to get up to show that one. I thought it would make more sense.
That's right. 1960s, two-game winners were killing ends, playing for the tournament. Club went inside the clubhouse and gave away the prizes and left.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So they got fed up with that.
Was it during the last end, or were all of the ends open at this point? I didn't bowl in the 60s, so I'm not sure what the rules were like. But...
It's a good question, though. But yeah, no, some great examples. Cam, thanks for bringing that one up about the skips leaving the head and not knowing what's going on. That's something that does irritate me as well, because it goes along with the slow play. right? So the person goes from the head to the thing, asks questions, and even in some circumstances, their vice or whoever's given them information might not give what they want, and then they walk right back up to the head.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Is that it? That's all?
I think we're good. We're coming up on the hour.
Alrighty. Well, before we close her out here, I just wanted to say thanks again to Erik Galipeau for joining us on the show. And remember, guys, follow, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. The same stuff we say every time. Don't forget to share our things out. You guys in Australia, Kyle McElroy, don't forget to show us to all your friends out there so they can see what's going on here in Canada. Maybe we can get some more input from some of the Australians. Maybe get some of you guys on the show. You never know.
Absolutely.
Thanks everybody in the chat, Ralph, Kyle, Cam, everybody else who's in the chat. Sorry if I missed you. Thanks a lot. And I guess until next time, guys, I hope all your shots are touchers, and take care.